friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie, yo, 4, 2, 1. Day in the neighborhood. My brothers and sisters. It is that time once again, my friends, to get into another one of these true crime, horror, dark, deep, and mysterious what the is going on type of videos. And today, we going back to the homie, Kyle from Dire Trip. Back to Dire Trip, y'all. And the title of this video is The Wacky World of Bath Salts Crimes. Now, we already know that this video about to be crazy, but I feel like for me personally, it's gonna be a little educational, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know nothing about bath salt like that. All I know is that it's something that people take and it make you go crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's one of them type of drugs that just make you crazy. Because I have heard stories and, you know, watched a couple of videos, I think about it or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I know a little bit about it. And the main thing I always be hearing is it got something to do with making people act like zombies, or they be looking like zombies while they high on it. You know what I'm saying? Like The Walking Dead in real life or something. That's the most I know about bath salt, y'all. Like, I don't even know how you inject it. Like, do you smoke it? Do you eat it? Do you drink it? Do you snort it? Like, I'm very uneducated about bath salt, and I just thank God that I didn't come up in an environment where people around me was using bath salt. You know what I'm saying? Or none of my friends. I don't even think none of my freaking co-workers ever use bath salt. Now, there may be an exception or two that I don't know about, but y'all get what I'm saying, man. It ain't like no, I can't even say this, but I'll just say it like this. I know people who have smoked crack. I know people to this day that smoke crack, even though they don't know I know. You know what I'm saying? I know people. I have been around cocaine and people snorting and all that. You know what I'm saying? But freaking bath salt, that's just like a foreign language in my environment, at least that much, y'all. Y'all get what I'm saying, man. I know it's gonna be crazy, but at the same time, I think it's gonna be very educational. But I digress. We're gonna go and get into it. But before we get into it, my brothers and sisters, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please. We back to Kyle from Dire Trip. Y'all got what y'all need? Y'all ready to go? Then let's fucking go.
In the early 2010s, people all over the US and Europe were able to casually walk into any given convenience store and purchase illicit substances, hard ones to say the least. This led to nothing short of international pandemonium, with some wondering if it was the beginning of the zombie apocalypse.
Get whatever you may need.
Bath salts, or known over in Europe as monkey dust, are what they have come to call designer drugs. They were called as such because, in order to hide their true nature as a hardcore drug, the designers would often brand the goods as either bath salts, cleaning powder, plant food, potpourri, or all manner of different products. Given their appearance of white, powder-like little granules, one might find those labels believable. They would then slap a sticker on that would read, "Not for human consumption," in order to create a little bit of plausible deniability, and hopefully avoid any sort of prosecution while dealing drugs in gas stations, convenience stores, and over the internet. These products first came to be in around the year 2009, but it wasn't until 2010, 2011 that they really exploded in popularity, usage, and memes. Calls started pouring into US and European poison control centers as people went to their local convenience stores and gas stations to pick up their products and give them a try. After all, if they're legally, openly sold in shops, how dangerous could they be? They were easier to buy than a simple can of beer. Well, the answer to that question is very. In 2010,
Now I gotta admit something to y'all. Now I gotta admit this, man. I ain't afraid to admit stuff about my past. God damn it. Some of y'all may call it Spice out there, K2. Y'all might know it by that name. But where I'm from, we always called it Space. And at one point in time, my brothers and sisters, I was a space cadet. For y'all that don't know what I'm talking about at all, space was like synthetic weed. You know what I'm saying? That you can actually go to the gas station and buy, and it would get you high. It would get you high. Now, the high didn't last that long, but it was never a just crazy out of this world high like I would assume like crack or cocaine will make you. You know what I'm saying? But at one point in time, because of my job situation and all that, y'all, I couldn't smoke marijuana. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't. My urine had to stay clean, so that was my alternative. And I was a space cadet. Like, I used to smoke the hell out of that shit for a couple of years, y'all. Hey, man, you know I'm gonna keep it real over here with y'all, my brothers and sisters. So I have indulged in that, but I don't think that's on the level of bath salt, because that shit never made me turn into the freaking Walking Dead or nothing like that. It was just a shorter high than a weed high. But I'm glad those days behind me, though. I'm glad all them days behind me, and I'm back to smoking the devil's lettuce. Let's go.
Number of calls to US poison control centers involving bath salts was around 300. In 2011, however, that number ballooned into an astounding 6,000. If one were to ingest the designer drugs, they would face all manner of concerning symptoms. Headaches, nausea, chills, heart palpitations, paranoia, and even anxiety/panic attacks. If one who were already susceptible to psychotic conditions were to ingest, smoke, snort, inject, or otherwise administer the dangerous substance, it would tend to send their pre-existing disorders into overdrive. It wasn't unusual for people to experience hallucinations, delusions, and erratic behavior. And that's putting it lightly.
Dr. Tripp just answered the question for me, too. It's a lot of different ways that you could inject this bath salt. I'm learning, y'all. I'm learning something today. Let's go.
The first incident to really bring bath salts into the forefront of the public conscience was an incident known as the Miami Cannibal Attack, or more casually, the bath salt zombie. This was when, on May 26th of 2012, a man named Rudy Eugene attacked a homeless man on the MacArthur Causeway in Miami, Florida. The entire incident, which was caught on tape, became broadcast on news channels not only throughout the US, but internationally as well. The attack started when Rudy accused the homeless man, Ronald Popo, of stealing his Bible. He then beat him until he lost consciousness, tore off his pants, and most shockingly began to bite down on his face. Rudy began to eat away at the unconscious man's face, ultimately biting off most of his face above the beard line, including eating his entire left eyeball. The whole attack left Ronald completely blind, but surprisingly alive. The savage...
Look at this picture, my brothers and sisters. I had to pause it. Bath salt has got to be the most craziest drug ever, man. I ain't never, that Space K2 story I was telling y'all about, it never made me even halfway even think about doing something like this. Look at this man's face. That dude was literally eating him. I don't even think crack make people do that. This shit is crazy, man. That is an unreal photo to know that a person ate all of his facial features off of him. This is wild already.
Assault didn't end until the Miami PD arrived and shot Rudy on the spot. Police initially believed that bath salts were involved, given the pure psychopathy of the carnage they had seen. They couldn't believe that any average sort of psychosis could have led to such a brutal scene without some sort of intoxicant being involved. But toxicology tests came to show no drugs in Rudy's system aside from cannabis. This is where a bit of controversy began. Some would claim that this was a sign that bath salts weren't involved at all, while others would claim that the standard testing wouldn't have revealed the chemicals in bath salts in the first place. Regardless, this became the most well-known bath salts-related crime and brought the designer drugs into the spotlight. Whether or not this case really involved the substance, many others have been proven to.
It had to been bath salt or something, man. Like, the only thing they found in his system was weed. Weed ain't never made nobody do that. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what the fuck was wrong with that dude. I don't know, y'all.
One of the most interesting cases of a bath salts-related crime involved the arrest of a 35-year-old woman named Tracy Mabb. At 5 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, Tracy walked out into the middle of a highway in Pompano Beach, Florida, and pulled up her shirt to show her bare chest. She didn't stop there, pulling off her pants as well and showing passers-by the full set of goods, front and back, as she spun around in an intoxicated stupor. Motorists were rubbernecking as the naked woman posed and danced throughout the street, leading to danger in more ways than one. When police officers arrived, she refused to stop posing her nude body in the middle of the speedway, telling the officers, quote, "I don't give a fuck," when they told her that what she was doing was illegal. The police threw cuffs on Tracy and arrested her then and there. It was immediately very clear that she wasn't completely coherent. Either way, she was taken in and booked. The police took a mugshot that has become nothing short of legendary, painting a clear picture of the results of abusing this particular substance. While it was initially widely reported that she was on bath salts at the time of the crime, the police never did come out with a specific confirmation. Regardless, she was held in jail on a $600 bond while the internet laughed off the entire incident.
That was crazy. I gotta admit, that's crazy, but it's freaking alcohol that made people get naked and run in the street. You know what I'm saying, man? It's still crazy, but it ain't like eating somebody's face off type of crazy. It's one of those crazy, well, hell, it has been sober people out here, you know what I'm saying, without a drug in their system or no alcohol in their system who done ran out in the middle of the street and showed their ass and shit. I mean, I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
Miami wouldn't be left with only one bath salts-related incident, not by a long shot. One summer day, a man named Shane Schuler went into a local park on 19th Avenue, a park notably located directly behind the North Miami Beach police station. He stripped down, removing all of his clothes, and laid down on a park bench. This was when a woman and her daughter entered through the park at the 20th Avenue entrance when they saw Shane lying there, naked on the bench. The mother said that he was completely naked with his junk on full display. This was when she tried to walk past him and out of the park, but Shane stood up as she came into his vision, exposing himself fully to her toddler. This was when Shane looked the kid straight in the eyes and said, chillingly, "Come here, little girl, I want to stick it in you." Needless to say, the mother grabbed her daughter and fled the scene. Luckily, Shane never did get close enough to even touch them. Being right behind a police station, it wasn't long before the police were on the scene and arresting him. Upon arrest, they searched his clothes and found his wallet, containing both his ID and, as you may expect, bath salts. In court, Shane explained that he was indeed using the drug when he began to feel unbearably hot and removed his clothes in order to cool off in the fountain. Feeling this overwhelming sense of heat is a notably common side effect of the drug. Surveillance camera footage from the park proved the mother's story to be correct. Shane was soon hit with various charges related to lewd activity and exposure.
Man, that man lucky he ain't get his ass shot. I'm just saying, man, to say that to somebody little child while you butt naked in front of them, boy, I'm just saying, man, these bath salts, y'all, they something different. Make you do some just outlandish stuff out here.
Bath salts-related cases weren't relegated to Florida by any means. It was becoming an international issue for sure. One of the more memorable cases took place in New York City. It all started when two teenage boys were playing basketball outside of their home, only to see a middle-aged looking woman, Pamela McCarthy, age 35, come rolling down the stairs leading up to her second-floor apartment. With the two buildings sharing the same parking lot, the boys were able to get a good view of what was happening as they saw this woman tumble down the stairs, rolling over her 3-year-old son, landing on top of him. She stood up, with her arm around the young boy's waist. Despite having just wiped out onto the concrete, she stood up as if nothing had happened at all. She immediately began to argue with her boyfriend, Jason Williams, who was already outside. Then she locked eyes with one of the teenage boys, showing a spark of anger and shouting, "You better get out of here, you nasty F slur." That was when the boy dropped his basketball and ran upstairs to tell his dad what was going on. Pamela started to chase the boy, but he was able to get her lost behind a parked car and create some distance. Pamela then gave up, instead walking over and sitting down next to her young son, choosing to begin choking him instead. Hands around his neck, she began to spin in circles and laugh. The teenager called 911 immediately as soon as he got inside. Pamela then ran back up the stairs of her apartment. When she came back out, she was completely naked. She picked up her child and threw him down onto the ground. Her boyfriend scooped the boy up and ran across the street to a nearby convenience store.
What's up with bath salt and making people want to get naked and go outside? Like, this is becoming like not just a random thing that they do. This is becoming normal for people on bath salt, ain't it? At least in these stores it is. Like, what the fuck? There's a common theme of the story.
Pamela ran after him, stopping in the middle of the street. She then came back to her apartment building and began to climb back up the stairs, only getting about halfway up before she fell all the way back down to the ground, landing headfirst onto the concrete. She sat up, calmed down for about a minute, and began to attempt the stairs again. She got back into her apartment one more time, this time coming out with a pit bull, only to roll down the stairs once again. Just as she did with her son, she landed on top of the dog and began to choke him as well. This all took place over only about 5 minutes. This was when the first police began to show up. Pamela began to growl at them as they approached her. When they got close, she attempted to bite one of them. They sprayed her with some pepper spray, but it had absolutely no effect. Still having her arm around the dog's neck, the police officers tried to pull her off, but it couldn't be done. This was when one officer warned her that he would tase her. She didn't care, so he fired once. As with the pepper spray, it had no effect. Pamela didn't even flinch. Trying again, he pressed the taser up against her back and fired. She finally let go of the dog, and this was when a trooper was able to slap some handcuffs on her. She fell onto her stomach as the cop put his knee on her back to hold her down. Little did they know, Pamela was just recovering from heart surgery when she decided it would be an opportune time to try the drug. She went into cardiac arrest shortly after and was rushed to the hospital where she ultimately passed away. Her boyfriend said after the fact that he had known of her history of drug abuse, but he had never seen her like this. Many times in the past, he had tried to get help for her, even trying to get her own mother to do something. This grandmother then took custody of Pamela's son, who was luckily treated with only minor injuries.
Damn, that's sad that she lost her life behind that shit. But boy, my brothers and sisters, if this video, and I ain't saying none of y'all out there have thought about it, but I'm just saying, and for anybody who have thought about bath salt, all you gotta do is just watch this video. You won't think about doing it no more, man. This stuff right here make you, man, it just turn you into something completely unhuman. You know what I'm saying? Make you start doing inhumane type shit out here, man. Then all that abuse that she was causing to her child, then her dog. Then you keep falling down the steps. You can't even walk up steps. Walk up and down steps without falling, man. Like, no, y'all. I'm serious, man. This video right here, goddamn, make you question doing any damn drug.
Down in Georgia, a bizarre case took place that would do nothing to help the currently spreading rumors that bath salts were leading to a cannibalism epidemic, with some even saying that they would lead to the start of the zombie apocalypse. On an average day, some patrons were hitting some balls at a golf course when they saw a young man, Carl Laventure, jump out of the woods, completely naked, as he began to run around the Atlanta golf range. He picked up a club from the ground and began to wave it around his head as he screamed. Police were called. Once they showed up, they attempted to subdue the man, but they couldn't. This was due to what they themselves called his superhuman strength. When that failed, they turned to the pepper spray. This also left him completely unfazed. He didn't even attempt to wipe it off or even close his eyes, leaving them wide open, red and bloodshot as he continued to battle the police. Concerned, they upped the ante and pulled out the tasers. The first shot did knock Carl down to the ground, but it only stopped him for a mere moment before he stood back up and continued his attack. One officer said, "We had to tase him approximately 5 more times on the scene to get him down. It took several officers to hold him down to get him cuffed." A video clip was recorded once Carl was finally on the ground. He was face down, naked, and mumbling incoherently. He began to state that he was going to eat the faces off of the officers. Between gibberish, curse words, and nonsensical babbling, he threatened to eat even more of the golf course patrons. He then rambled about Tupac and Biggie before he started to make animal noises before moving on to more threats. He attempted to look up at the officers, saying, "I'ma eat you. I'll eat you. I don't want to eat you, but I will." The police were able to take him under control and haul him out to a nearby hospital. Unfortunately, he wasn't finished. He lashed out and attacked one of the nurses on site, causing another brawl with the police. His behavior was quickly linked to bath salts as well, only further bringing the designer drug into the spotlight.
And only further making our case that we over here talking about, my brothers and sisters. Another one that running around naked in public, like it's something that's linked to what that bath salt is something that is doing to people that make them want to be naked and go show their ass to the world, man. It got to be, man. And another thing, for some reason, it make people want to eat people, and it seems like it's like particularly they face that they want to eat for some reason. Man, please, y'all. Hell no.
The chaos spread all the way to Houston, Texas. This was where a woman named Stephanie Dillard was driving along the road with her 3 children before she came to crash into a bus. All 3 of her kids, aged 16, 12, and 5, were left with minor injuries but fortunately survived the collision. Stephanie, instead of caring for her kids, instead began to strip off all of her clothes as she ran across the street into a nearby CVS.
That's it though. I know I keep harping on it, but that's it. I'm convinced now. Bath salt and being naked in public is linked together. It is something going on with that. I don't know what it is, but it's something going on in their mind where they feel like I don't know why they feel like they need to be naked, but god damn it, it's something that drug is a reason why it make you do that. I need to look it up. I need to Google that.
Upon entering the store, she quickly made her way over to the frozen food section and found the ice cream. She began to ravenously consume the ice cream then and there in the store while continuing to remove her clothing. When the police arrived, she continued to eat the ice cream while attempting to both fight and evade the police officers. Eventually, she was taken into custody. She was charged with multiple counts of endangering the welfare of a child as the kids were taken to live with their grandmother. Her bail was set for $2,000. The police, once again, came to find that this case was related in large part to the use of bath salts.
Crazy.
Up in Illinois, a man named Matthew V. Miller, upon ingesting the substance himself, jumped onto the top of a stranger's car and held onto the hood for an entire 4 miles as the driver attempted to get away. The driver was terrified of Matthew's demeanor, saying that he was out of his mind. When the car came to a stop, the police took Matthew into custody. Matthew exclaimed that he was merely trying to run away from people that were trying to eat him. Police came to find an empty vial which previously contained bath salts out near where the ride started, believing that they had belonged to him. Matthew, lucky to even be alive without major injury, was charged with possession of a controlled substance, disorderly conduct, and criminal damage to property.
He lucky, goddamn, he ain't fucking died just the fact holding on to a car for 4 miles on the top of it. That bath salt do kind of sound like it give you a little it's superhuman strength, because these people being able to get tased and pepper sprayed and not be fazed by it, like it do have you that far out of your mind where you can't even really feel pain like that. That's crazy. Falling downstairs, getting up, falling back down them, getting up, hitting your head. Like, this bath salt shit, y'all. Man.
In Pennsylvania, a 31-year-old new mother named Carla Murphy had just given birth 2 days prior and was still in the hospital. The doctors, feeling concerned that something was wrong with her mental state, decided to hold her over for a mental health evaluation. When they walked her back over to her new room, she began to freak out, running off into a nearby restroom. She stripped off all of her clothes and began to roll around on the bathroom floor while screaming in confusion. Doctors attempted to calm her down, but she was unable to respond to even the most basic of questions. She couldn't even answer as to where she was. Doctors administered an antipsychotic called Haldol and brought Carla to sit on the bed. She continued to flail around and yell at the staff. Eventually, she decided to make a break for it and run towards the door, pushing through a group of nurses and security to do so. The hospital security eventually brought her back to the bed and laid her down, but she shot back up one more time and punched a nurse in the face. She then kicked an officer and tried to bite him. She was held down until the Haldol finally put her to sleep, horse-kicking a nurse in the chest one last time as she faded out. Police came out to the hospital and arrested Carla when she came to. Investigators found a dismantled ink pen in her purse containing what appeared to be a white substance tightly rolled in medical tape with Disco written across. Disco was the name of a specific brand of bath salts that was in circulation at the time. She was taken into Blair County Prison on a probation violation and an outstanding warrant. She was soon released and given her freedom once again as the hospital police declined to press charges. After the incident, a caseworker visited her home and, upon getting permission from Carla and her boyfriend, began to look around. This led to police conducting a full search, finding needles, plenty of tinfoil, broken bottles containing brown residue, and, of course, bath salts.
Now, see, this is what my mind kind of like hurting, y'all. Like, and explain to me, man. Somebody in the comments if you feel like it. You know, earlier I was saying that I used to be a space cadet. I used to smoke spice. I used to smoke K2, whatever may have you. Those jars and the packages right there, that's what it used to look like. That's what it used to come in. But that was not no bath salt, y'all. Like, the space in the K2 was like these little like leaves. I ain't gonna say particularly it looked exactly like weed, but it kind of looked like weed, like it was leaves. It was green. It wasn't no freaking white crystal substance. So I don't know if it's two different things or they like kind of in the same subgroup of things. I don't know if Kyle is considering the K2, the space, the spice as bath salt also. Because that was no bath salt. Like I said, y'all, I did that for some years, just keeping it 100. I did that for some years and it never made me do nothing nowhere near close to anything in this story. I don't know. Let's go.
Carla's boyfriend admitted that she had a problem with the substance, but he had thought that she stopped using it after they previously had issues with her actions. In the end, both he and Carla were charged with various paraphernalia offenses. Out in Ohio, Vandalia to be specific, one family had quite the weird bath salts experience. In November, an 11-year-old boy came home to find a 44-year-old man, Terry Trent, sitting on his couch and watching TV. The boy had never seen this man before. The boy screamed out to his mother, who was next door with the neighbor. This was when Terry stood up and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I'll get my things and go." The mother called the police and screamed for the neighbors to come and help. She came over to get her son to see that candles were lit, the TV was on, and to her surprise, a Christmas wreath had been placed on both the front door and the garage door. She then went inside and was shocked to see that the drugged-up intruder had actually put up all of her Christmas decorations inside as well. Rather than getting into the criminal spirit, it seems that Terry had been taken over by the holiday spirit instead. Christians may call this a Christmas miracle, but anyone else would probably just say that it's really weird. When the police came out, they caught Terry and found that he had a pocket knife on his possession, noting that it appeared he had been abusing bath salts. According to the police, he had a long history of drug-related charges against him. Terry was charged with burglary and taken into the Montgomery County Jail.
That's weird, man. That is real weird. Yeah, you coming? How the hell you coming to a stranger house? You a stranger coming into a stranger house and just see they Christmas decoration, decide to start putting it up, chilling on their couch, got your feet kicked up like you lived there, like you was invited there. You know what I'm saying? That's freaking crazy, man. That's probably the most bizarre case of the bath salt we heard so far. I guess if I don't know, man. All this stuff crazy though.
New York State clearly had its hands full with the epidemic. The bath salts cases weren't isolated to New York City by any means, with a smaller city named Utica notably having their own battle against the substance users. While there were many cases within the city, a few gained more notoriety than the others. One Saturday night, the police were called out to investigate a woman who was reported to be, quote, emotionally disturbed. Once an officer approached her, she lunged towards him, pouncing on him, and tried to bite down on his face. According to the police, she was screaming that she wanted to kill them and eat them. She was taken into the hospital for a mental health evaluation. 2 days later, the same police were called to investigate yet another woman going berserk on bath salts. Once the officers showed up to the scene in which they were called, they were greeted with the sight of a 22-year-old woman in the middle of the street wearing nothing but a pair of underwear. She was foaming at the mouth, running into traffic, behaving violently, and nearly getting hit by car after car. She was screaming to anyone who may listen that her clothes were electrocuting her and that she, in her own words, had metal inside of her, whatever that might mean. She said that her skin was burning, on fire, and that she couldn't get near any metal or wires. The police had to hold the woman down and restrain her until an ambulance could arrive. She was taken to St. Elizabeth's Hospital. It turns out that she had tried to inject the bath salts into her system, but upon failing, instead decided to eat the entire bag. While you may have had the impression that these problems were isolated to the US and Europe, Canada was having its own struggle with the illicit substance as well. One night in Calgary, the police were called at around midnight to come check out a young man who was behaving very strangely. Witnesses had seen the young man, roughly 18 to 25, attempting and succeeding in hurting himself in various ways. The police arrived to see a nearly naked young man standing in an alleyway, slamming his face up against a fence repeatedly and behaving very irrationally. The man was spacing out entirely, not showing any response whatsoever to the police's commands. He was bleeding heavily from his face. It took what the police called a sufficient amount of officers to take him down. Once the ambulance was called, they had to chemically subdue the man in order to calm him down. The officers noted that he seemed to have superhuman strength and an infinitely high threshold for pain. He was taken away to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. There, doctors found that he had nearly succeeded in cutting his entire nose off. When it was found that his body temperature was abnormally high, it was concluded that bath salts were the likely culprit.
Okay, now I think I'm understanding why. This is my theory of why I think, y'all, that they like to get naked when they be on bath salt. Now I'm understanding it, because this is like the second or third time that Dire Tripp has really talked about it. They be burning up. Like they be feeling like they hot as hell. Yes, and that's why one of the ladies, she got naked, had the accident with her children in the car, didn't give a damn about the children, went in the store, but she went in there naked and she was eating ice cream. Like they be feeling like their body is so hot till they just gotta strip down and just try to cool off. That's the only, I mean, that makes sense, y'all, right? Like, that's a good reason why. It's not a good reason why, but I'm just saying, like, that's plausible, right? Let's go.
In Scottsdale, Arizona, a 45-year-old man named John Brigham had gotten into a car accident. This was when he stripped naked in the middle of the road and stood on top of his car, screaming and chanting. He managed to make his way over to a woman in a Prius nearby, pulling her out of the car and successfully carjacking it. He took off down the road and crashed into a group of 5 other vehicles, causing the Prius to roll multiple times, being ejected from the car and sent flying down the road.
Dang.
He stood back up and then attempted to run down the road and steal another car. All the while, he was continually screaming, "The Indians are coming." The police observed John as he attempted to make his way into 2 more vehicles. In the end, 7 people were injured. One of the injured was a pregnant woman. The police finally wrangled John and took him out to jail. There, he tore off all of his clothes once again and began to scream as he banged on the walls. It was obvious that he was in some sort of drug-induced stupor, with the witnesses claiming that he had been on bath salts. He was taken to the hospital to be evaluated. John was charged with 6 counts of endangerment, 3 counts of attempted robbery, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of leaving the scene of a crash, 2 counts of driving under the influence, 1 count of robbery, and 1 count of vehicle theft.
You know what that image giving me vibes of, especially after knowing that he was hijacking people? Freaking Grand Theft Auto 5, man. Trevor. This dude is literally Trevor out here. You know how sometimes you'll wake up when you playing Grand Theft Auto 5? Well, you'll switch to Trevor and he don't have on nothing but his drawers and he be in a crazy place or doing something to somebody or something. That is Trevor right there, my brothers and sisters. If you know, you know.
He was held in jail on a $100,000 bond. In Greendale, California, a 77-year-old woman asked a 20-year-old man, Robert William White, to stop attempting to hit pigeons with a shovel. Upon hearing this, he turned to her and told her, "I hate you and want to kill you today," before hitting her over the head with his shovel.
Damn.
Robert then ran over to his apartment in a nearby building and locked himself inside, hiding away for well over an hour. This was when the police were able to get a key from management and let themselves inside. He was accused of attempting to kill the old woman. However, he was completely incoherent. He didn't respond logically to anything they were saying. All he did was fight back. He told police that he was an alien and that he had been in direct contact with Jesus Christ at the time of the attack, who had pushed him to do it in the first place. The police were forced to resort to using rubber bullets and taser guns just to arrest him. When they did, they handcuffed him to a wheelchair to get him out of the apartment. While being wheeled out, Robert began to shout, "God loves you all," while holding an expression of rage to all the bystanders who were now watching. Robert was taken to a local hospital, as well as the old woman. The old woman was injured, but nothing life-threatening. She made a full recovery. Robert was found to have been drinking soda that he had filled with bath salts.
That's crazy. Yeah, y'all, like I did not know, man, but this one of them drugs. Well, I guess all drugs in a way is like that, though. You can consume or ingest them in a lot of different ways, but as far as marijuana goes, the best way, in my opinion, is to smoke it. You know what I'm saying? But this dude literally was mixing his bath salt with his Coca-Cola. Wow.
In Phoenix, Arizona, one man took bath salts while driving a moving truck that he had rented. While driving, he stripped off his pants. However, in doing so, he lost control and crashed the truck into someone's home. He then fled from the scene, without pants, and ran off into the night. Luckily, it was 2:30 a.m. and the owner of the home was sleeping in a bedroom in the back of the home when the truck plowed through and completely destroyed the living room. Unluckily, though, his home was deemed unlivable until a good number of repairs were made. The moving truck had to be dislodged from the wreckage of the home and towed away. It wasn't long before the police found the half-naked, screaming, thrashing man and subdued him. It wasn't really hard for the police to identify the man, as he had left his wallet behind in his pants. The worst part of the story is that the homeowner did not have insurance at the time, leaving his future very uncertain.
Yeah, now that's fucked up. He didn't even have insurance on the damn house, man. But what's the chances of that happening, though? Like, if that were to happen to you, you'll be like, God damn it, out of a 1 in a gabillion chance it had to happen to me. A freaking truck crashed into my house. Like, that's one of the ones where you'll never think it would happen. And it was another case of somebody taking their clothes off. I don't know, y'all. It be making them hot, I guess. They get hot and bothered.
Over in the UK, they were having their own battle dealing with, well, they would call it monkey dust. One of the most well-known cases over there was that of a man in Staffordshire who climbed up on a roof in nothing but a green hoodie. Those who watched him climb up onto the roof said that he was climbing up the wall exactly the way that a monkey would. The police were called as the man trampled around the 2-story roof, endangering basically only himself. They could tell right from the beginning that the man was zonked out of his mind. Right away they knew what they were dealing with, as they had actually arrested at least 16 people on that same drug in the month leading up to this incident. Before too long, the man did exactly what they feared he would do and jumped off the roof. When he did, he ended up breaking several different bones, mainly in his legs. Nevertheless, he managed to get up and fight with the cops, who said that he had incredible Hulk-like strength and seemingly wasn't able to feel any pain. Eventually, though, he was taken in and arrested, and likely felt the pain the next day. After this incident, police in the area launched what they called Operation Disrupt, a task force that set out to deal with nothing but monkey dust. One police officer on the task force made a statement in which he iterated, "We have seen cases where we've got people running into traffic. We've seen cases where we've got people climbing onto buildings." This case was exactly the kind of wake-up call that the country needed to begin banning the drugs. In July of 2012, the United States government really went into overdrive to try to deal with the growing problem that was bath salts. In only 1 year, the drug had become an absolute national menace. The cases outlined in this video are actually only a very small fraction of the cases related to these designer drugs that happened throughout that time. The US federal drug policy was soon amended to ban the compounds most commonly found in these drugs. In the UK, things had proceeded a little bit more quickly, with some of these compounds being banned as soon as back in 2010. However, it wasn't until a good several years later that a majority of the drugs had been dealt with. Despite poison centers receiving thousands of calls a year related to these drugs around 2011 and 2012, by 2015 that number had decreased to about 522. These days, you never really hear about bath salts or any of those similar designer drugs anymore. To Gen Z and Gen Alpha, it would seem inconceivable that you could buy hard drugs over the counter at your average gas station, easier to purchase than even a single cigarette.
Yeah.
However, people will always search for a new loophole in order to get high. For all we know, it could only be a matter of time before we see another similar epidemic. Who knows when and where it might be.
Who knows?
Once again, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give me a like, it really helps out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you don't mind, go ahead and follow me on social.
Who freaking knows, y'all, when another epidemic like that gonna happen? And this is so crazy, man, because I'm telling y'all, when I'm talking about the space, the spice, and some of y'all know what I'm talking about, man. I know y'all do out there, my brothers and sisters. That was not bath salts, but it's so crazy because that was around the time where that shit was happening with me and where I lived, as far as like being able, I can remember like being able to go to gas. I'm talking about this shit was like pretty much at every gas station. You could walk in there and buy it, man. And gas station was jumping on to the craze, you know what I'm saying? They were jumping on to it, but it wasn't bath salts though. Or maybe what I was buying was just the space, but they was also selling bath salt, was even a harder drug, but I just didn't know about all that, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm telling y'all, man, what I'm talking about looked like some weed. It looked like marijuana. It looked like leaves. It's green, but it, from what I'm understanding, bath salt is like literally look like salt crystals, you know what I'm saying? So I know, and then like I said, man, they had with the space, they ain't never made nobody trip out like these people in this video. The most common things about all these people, the craziest one is that a lot of them want to eat humans while they on it. That is the most craziest one, that they want to turn into accountable while they on it. And actually some of them have done it. Another crazy thing is the freaking being naked in public. Like all of a sudden you just want to be be naked. A third thing that a lot of these had in common was that they just all of a sudden got this type of, and the police said it, multiple police in these stories said it, like they just got this superhuman strength or some shit. And then I feel like a fourth one is the fact that goddamn when they getting tased and pepper spray and they not reacting to it at all. You get what I'm saying, man? Like that, normal people don't do that. Like you can be drunk as hell, somebody pepper spray your ass, you gon' freak the fuck out. You know what I'm saying, man? You could have been smoked all the weed in the world that day. You know what I'm saying? But god damn it, if somebody tase your ass, you gon' freak the fuck out, my brothers and sisters. So just the fact that they didn't show no type of sense of even feeling none of that stuff being done to them, that's a crazy one too, y'all. That was a great video from our boy Dial Trip, man. This was a great video because I already knew it was gonna be crazy, and I feel like this is something we ain't never really talked about over here on our channel. I feel like we done had a great discussion today, but I digress. I'm gonna let y'all go now, and I'll see y'all tomorrow for another That Chapter Wednesday. But before that, my friends, make sure you hit that like button, you comment, subscribe, and do all that. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.